Hey girls and gals, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and today is the start of another weekly reading vlog. Today is Sunday, January 23rd, and it's actually crazy how fast January has gone already, but I'm very excited to kick off this reading vlog because I just have a really good feeling that I'm gonna have a good reading week because I'm in such a reading mood, and I'm also such in like a high fantasy reading mood, and I have a lot of books that I've gotten from the library that are on my TBR that I'm just very invigorated to read this week. So I'm just really looking forward to reading all of them. So I just have really good feeling about what I'm gonna read this week. So I'm very excited to get into it. Starting off with reading updates, I am almost finished with my reread of House in Earth and Blood. I won't talk too much about this because it is a Sarah J. Maas book. I feel like if you know, you know. If you don't, then you don't want to know at this point, you know? So this was my first Sarah J. Maas book, and I think it still remains my favorite. This is like a high fantasy, urban fantasy sort of blend. I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying my reread as well. It's huge. I think it's like 799 pages. And the second book does come out next month. It was supposed to come out last year, but it got pushed to February of this year. So I reread this. Well, I'm gonna finish it today, but starting off the week on a good note because I did really enjoy this. I really enjoyed it the second time too. Especially I feel like the first 150 pages or so are a lot easier to get through once you're familiar with the world. I feel like that's pretty typical of a lot of large fantasies, like the start of new fantasy series when you're getting acquainted with the world. So I'm having a lot of fun reading this. A quick little announcement because I did talk about how I was so excited to read this one in my January anticipated releases video, and I would be remiss if I just never talked about it again. But on Saturday, actually, I did try and pick up How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu, and this is just not the book for me at this moment, and I just don't know for me if it'll ever be the book for me. So I am DNFing this. I'm returning it back to the library. It is very, very well written. It's nothing wrong with the book, just the book subject matter is it's too much for me. This is kind of told in a lot of different stories that are all interconnected through time, but they all have connections to each other. But it starts in the year 2030 where an archaeologist goes to the Arctic Circle and a new pathogen, a new bacteria is discovered, and that turns into a virus that sweeps across the United States and starts infecting only children at first. It moves on to the rest of the population, but it really hits hard in children first, where your organs start transferring into other organs. So like your cells in your lung will start growing like a liver, or your brain will start growing a heart in terms of cells, which is obviously not good. So we have that pandemic sort of vibe, which obviously might be a lot for a lot of people to read at the moment. And then also just it's not something that I'm irrationally scared of, but with all of the ice melting, we've got a lot of things that are frozen that might be unfrozen if the planet keeps warming up. So that's something that I'm nervous about happening on this earth. So reading about it in like such a near future in 2030 is horrible. And then just also the virus itself and the illness itself and how it manifests in children, and then the conversations that are being had, because I did get about almost 100 pages into this one. One of the main points of view is about a person who works at a euthanasia theme park where parents take their children to have one last good day before they're put out of their misery, before they die like very long and drawn out deaths by this virus. So it's dark. It's really dark, and I was reading it, and I know this book is going to be nominated for so many awards. It's written really well, and it obviously had such an emotional impact on me. I haven't even finished it, but it was just too heavy. Someday, maybe I will be able to revisit it. I've heard wonderful things about this. I'm definitely in the minority, but I'm not DNFing it because I didn't like it just was too much. It was making me really anxious. So DNFing this one, which is a bummer because I was really looking forward to reading it. But I do have another new release that I am also very much looking forward to, and this is blurbed by like Andrea Stewart, Tasha Suri, authors that I've really loved. So I think once I'm done with House of Earth and Blood, I am going to pick up Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan, and this is an adult fantasy with a gorgeous cover. I work at a library, and when we got this in, I was just immediately drawn by the cover. So looking forward to picking this one up. It's a fantasy that's inspired by the legend of the Chinese moon goddess, in which a young woman's quest to free her mother sets her on a dangerous path and pits her against the most powerful immortal in the realm. So yes, and then we'll get a little bit of a close-up on this cover because it is absolutely gorgeous. So I've got about 50 more pages of this left, and then I will dive into this one. Again, I'm in a huge fantasy mood, so I'm also wanting to pick up The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. That is one that I'd love to pick up this week. I'm in the mood. I might pick up Mistborn. I might pick up The Shadow of the Gods. Like, there are so many fantasy books that I have checked out from my library at the moment that I'm very excited to get to, but definitely going to be starting with these two books to kick off the week. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the update. Very excited for the week ahead, this vlog. The rest of my Sunday going to be very laid back, lazy Sunday, as it usually always is for me, but that is pretty much it for this update. I will talk to you all later. So it is very late on Wednesday, so I'm going to keep this reading update very short, very sweet. I did finish House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. Really enjoyed that one. It was a reread, so I was expecting to really enjoy it. And I am currently reading two different books. They're very different genres, and one of them is physical and one of them is an audiobook. So for my audiobook currently, I am reading Vita Nostra. I have this on Libro FM. I forget the authors' names at the moment, but they should be on the screen with me. I should have the book cover for the book up. I'm really enjoying this one. This is a dark academia book, very much like Catherine House, in terms of you really don't know what's going on at this school. There are magical elements. It's very, very strange. And I don't really want to say much more than that, and I don't know how much I can say without, I feel like part of the journey of the book is just experiencing how bizarre this school is. But I am really enjoying that book, and I will have to say I think the audiobook is the way to go. Not only because I don't really know any Russian and this is a translated book, so all of the characters' names are Russian, so it's really nice to hear all of the pronunciations of the characters' names. And also I feel like if you're not like reading it and you don't have a chance to skim ahead maybe, or accidentally see like the beginning of another chapter or even the beginning of another paragraph, you along with the main character are really uncovering the secrets of the school very slowly. It's very eerie, and a lot of the things that they do at the school really gets in your head in a way that I feel like the audiobook really helps set up that whole experience for you as the reader as well. So I am really enjoying that one. I'm not sure how long it is, but I think I'm around 35% of the way through that one. Really enjoying it. Definitely one that I wanted to get to this year. So I am excited that I'm getting around to that one in January. And then for my physical book, I am reading Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan. This one is a very different vibe from Vita Nostra. This one is adult fantasy, and this one is written in like a very magical fairy tale-esque sort of way. It's a reimagining of the legend of the Chinese moon goddess. So we're following a young woman who is trying to free her mother. So our main character is the daughter of the moon goddess, and she is not technically supposed to exist. The way that her mother gained her immortality also made her a prisoner to circumstance, and the moon goddess is supposed to be very isolated. That is a condition of her immortality because she wasn't supposed to take it, and so our main character is not supposed to exist, but her mother has kept her in secret all of these years. Events happen and she's cast out of her home, and she's trying to find her way back to her mother again and potentially maybe free her mother from her circumstances. I'm really enjoying this one. This one I am primarily reading at work during my lunch break. I think the way that this is written is just so fitting for a retelling of a legend. I'm having a lot of fun reading this, and I really love that I don't really know the source material. A lot of times with retellings for me, I get a little bit bored, especially if they're very true to the original source, because I feel like I already know what's going to happen. This one, I have no idea really what's going to happen. I don't know who any of the characters are. I don't really know too much about the mythology as well. So I'm very excited to dive into this one. The audiobook narrator, I did listen to the audiobook for the first couple of chapters while I was reading it, so again I could get character pronunciations and have the character names in my head as I was reading. And the audiobook narrator is, I believe, the same audiobook narrator that narrated She Who Became the Sun, which also was a audiobook production that I really enjoyed. So I think either way for this one, audiobook or physical book, I think you could go either way. I've gone both ways. And I'm only on like page 66, but I am enjoying my time with this. And I'm very excited to read more in both of my books, hopefully. I'm probably going to finish Vita Nostra before I finish this one, just because the nature of I'm primarily reading this during my lunch break. That's only 30 minutes a day, so the audiobook is more portable, so I'll probably finish Vita Nostra first, but that is pretty much it for this reading update. We're getting close to the end of the week, so really just looking forward to the weekend at this point. 2 more days of work. It has been so cold here that it has just been such a struggle to get out of bed. So definitely shorter update. I need to go to bed, so it will be like marginally easier to wake up in the morning, but that is it for this update. I will talk to you all later. Hello, happy Sunday. Since the last time that I spoke to you all, I have finished a book. So I did finish Vita Nostra, and that was an absolute trip of a book. I really enjoyed it. At the same time, I could see how people would absolutely not like this book. It is crazy. I definitely think that the audiobook for me was the way to go. I felt very similarly to Catherine House. I felt that a narrator explaining all of it to you in your head, listening to someone else tell you the story, just made it even more bizarre, and especially with a lot of things that I don't want to give away. Just in terms of the lessons that are being taught to the students, you really feel like you are listening in on the lessons and the exercises and the bizarre things that are happening. So highly recommend if you like very strange sort of books, if you like dark academia. I don't know how much that I have like talked about the actual synopsis, but this is one where you don't want to know a lot going in. I feel like for me, that really heightened the complete bizarreness of the story and the situations which our main character Sasha found herself in, was that I didn't really know anything other than she gets accepted to a very strange school where she's not really sure what she's being taught and what the other students are being taught. And there's this whole air of mystery, potentially magic, something very strange being taught that potentially changes the way that you view the entire world. So it's very bizarre. I'm looking forward to checking out more by this author. This is a book series. I've heard that the 3 books, they're all kind of in the same world, but not following the same characters. So you don't have to read all of them, which is good because only the first one is translated at this point in time. And I really, fingers crossed, I'm really hoping that I am able to read the second 2 books eventually, sometime in my life. I can't read Russian, so hopefully they get translated into English at some point. The 2 authors of this book had another book that came out in 2020 in English, and I believe the same person who did the translation for Vita Nostra did the translation for this newer book. Looking forward to checking that out. It also just sounds like a very weird and mystical, magical time. So very much looking forward to checking that out sometime. I really loved this. Again, if you liked Catherine House, if you liked Bunny, I suppose, or if you liked Piranesi. If you liked any of those, I would recommend giving that one a shot. It's definitely one of those books that has a plot structure and even an ending where you sit with it for a while and you're still thinking about it after you finish it and trying to comprehend what all went on. So yes, finished that, really enjoyed it. Picked up another book this weekend, and that book is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I know this author has written so many other things. In particular, I'm thinking of the Malice series, which I know is very popular. Honestly, none of his books really intrigued me until this one, so I picked this up kind of on a whim, kind of based on the cover, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit. And then also just because it's a Norse-inspired fantasy, which sounded intriguing. I'm about 100 pages into this one, and I am really enjoying it. It's definitely more straightforward than Vita Nostra with the writing style. It's very much, and not in a bad way, it's very much like very standard, traditional adult fantasy in terms of the way that you're put into the world, the way that you're introduced to characters, the way things are described. I definitely think that this one, if you read a lot of fantasy, you're not gonna have a problem getting into this one. It's a multi-point of view fantasy story, and where I'm at right now, just over 100 pages in, we are still introducing the main characters, introducing their specific journeys and their hopes and their character arcs, things like that, just kind of introducing the characters. So I haven't really gotten too much into the bigger plot of this fantasy series, which is pretty standard for fantasy. I think this might be a trilogy, I'm unsure. But on the back of this says it's a Norse-inspired epic of blood and vengeance. When the gods fought, it was a battle so savage they destroyed themselves, leaving nothing but their bones and the broken land of Vigrid in their wake. Now, as whispers of war echo over the fjords and across the plains, fate follows in the footsteps of 3 warriors: a huntress on a perilous quest, a noblewoman pursuing battle fame, and a thrall seeking retribution among the mercenaries known as the Bloodsworn. All 3 will change the course of the world as it once more falls under the shadow of the gods. So I'm very intrigued to see where this story goes. I didn't really know much about this, and I still don't really know, other than like the back of that book, what this series is going to be. I've really only heard the Norse-inspired fantasy world, as well as I see a lot of really good reviews for this one, and the cover is really cool, and the second book's cover is really cool as well. So I am enjoying it. It's very easy, at least for me, to kind of breeze through. At the moment, we are following 3 main points of view. I don't know if as the story goes on, there might be more, or if we're just sticking with those 3. At this point, there's definitely one point of view that I'm really interested in, and the other 2, not so much. But I have a feeling that's going to switch up as the story progresses, just because I'm really interested in where one character is right now, and there's a lot of action happening and you really see where her story is going. The other 2 characters, not so much. So I'm very intrigued to see, as I read more of this, how I'll feel about each of the main characters, but I'm really enjoying this so far. It is the 30th today, so I would like to try and finish this one before February so I can count it in my January reads. And then as well, Daughter of the Moon Goddess, I have not picked up this entire weekend, just because once I pick a book for my lunchtime reading book, that's pretty much the only time I read it, and I do read a lot of different books at the same time. That's one of the ways that happens. And normally I'm not reading like all the same genre at one time, but I definitely like having one book that's specified and designated for lunch. So I haven't really read any of that this weekend, but I am enjoying that. Definitely very different in tone than this book. Daughter of the Moon Goddess is definitely more like mystical. The writing is more of a fairy tale retelling, whereas this one is more kind of standard traditional adult fantasy. I'm reading some very good books this week, and hopefully before this vlog ends, I will have at least finished one more book. If I finish one more book, I have a feeling it's going to be this one, just because Daughter of the Moon Goddess is very large and I only have 30 minutes a day to read that. So that's all the reading updates that I have for this clip. Gonna go enjoy the rest of my Sunday night and my weekend before another week of work, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. Hello friends, it's Tuesday, it's the first day of February, and I'm just coming to you with a little bit of a reading update. I think this is going to be maybe the second to last update, depending on how long this vlog is. I haven't actually started editing it yet, so hopefully it's not getting too long because I'm not anticipating this being the last reading update. But I have made it through another 100 pages of The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, and I am really enjoying this. I can't remember if I said in the last update or not, but this definitely feels like almost like an Assassin's Creed, the video game, just with the way the story is set up, and it almost feels like some of our characters are on side quests right now before they start their main quest of what I'm assuming is going to happen to them throughout the course of this trilogy. But I am 200-ish pages into this one, which makes me a little bit less than halfway through this one. I am really enjoying it. 3 points of view. I will say there's 2 that I'm enjoying, 1 that I'm not enjoying so much. Not that the 3rd point of view is bad, but I feel like the 3rd point of view is almost a story we've seen lots of times before, but I do have faith that it'll go somewhere a little different. Just at this point, one of the narratives is not intriguing me as much as the other 2. What's interesting about the other 2 is one of them, and I don't want to give too much away, but one of them has a character arc that I've really only ever seen given to men. So the character Orca, if you've picked this up, read it at all, her character arc, I'm very intrigued to see her story and how that progresses, because again, I've really only seen male characters be given this kind of story, and I think it's just going to be a little bit different just based on the fact of who is experiencing that story. But I am enjoying this. It's a lot of fun. I am under a little bit of pressure to finish this because someone is on hold for this at the library, and tomorrow's my last full day with this. So I do have a deadline of when I need to finish this one. Definitely, I feel like I can do it. I'm enjoying it. So looking forward to hopefully finishing this by the end of tomorrow so that I can finish it all in one go, because of course I can always place it back on hold, but then it'll be like 2 more weeks before I get it, and I would like to finish it before then. So here's hoping that I can get this finished soon. And then speaking of library holds, I did get 2 very exciting books in that I'm looking forward to picking up. Definitely sometime later on this month. Very excited for both of them. The first one, Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. This was one of my anticipated releases for last year. Had it on a library hold. Finally, it's in my hands now, so I'm looking forward to checking this out. This is one of those books, kind of like Cloud Atlas, which I mentioned. It's very interesting that the names are kind of similar, where it is kind of traveling through time and space and giving very, very different narrative stories that somehow all tie back in together. So I'm looking forward to picking this one up. Cloud Atlas is one of my favorite books, so I've heard really good things about this one. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone because I don't normally tend to read literary fiction, but I've heard wonderful things about this one, and the comparisons made me really intrigued to pick this up, as well as books that are out of my comfort zone. This one's a 2022 release, and it's definitely out of my comfort zone. Literary fiction, not something I'd normally pick up, but again, it has things that I tend to enjoy in books. So that's going to be To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara, and this one, I have not read Little Life, and I never intend on reading it. It just doesn't seem like something that I'm interested in. Everyone that talks about it is just emotionally devastated by it, and I'm not mentally enough ready to pick up a book like that. But this one, where I've heard this one's probably also going to be a little bit emotionally deep. This one also has that interconnected story going on, where it spans 3 centuries and 3 different versions of the American experiment about lovers, family loss, and the elusive promise of utopia. So this is actually taking place in an alternate version of America, so a little bit speculative there. Not totally literary fiction, I think. I'm not sure. Again, I'll have to check it out. Both of these books are huge, so I will definitely hopefully be logging a very large page count in the month of February. But yeah, both definitely books a little bit out of my normal comfort zone range, but let me know which one I should pick up first, because I definitely want to get to both of these, but they're so large, I don't know if I will be able to get to them both in the month of February. So let me know your opinions on them down below, if you've read either of them, or just which one you'd rather hear my thoughts on first. But yeah, that's really all I have for this update. It is pretty late, and I still need to eat some dinner, and also hopefully finish, or at least get a good chunk of the way through the Shadow of the Gods. That's really all I have for this update. I will talk to you all tomorrow. So it is now time for the final reading update of this vlog. Time to wrap it up, because I did finally finish The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne, and I did end up really enjoying this book. Luckily, I was not on track to finish it by the time that my library had to take it back, give it to someone else that had a hold on it. It was due back on Thursday, but I actually had a snow day on Thursday, which was pretty exciting. So that was fun. I got to just sit down and finish this. Today's Friday. We have another snow day, so very much enjoying my unexpected 4-day weekend. It's been a very low-key and relaxed reading vlog, but I just wanted to come on here, wrap it up, and say that I did end up really enjoying this one. I will be picking up the second book in the series. I will say for this one, there are 2 points of view that I enjoyed, one that I didn't so much. This is definitely a multi-point of view fantasy, where there were some sections where I was just kind of wishing that we were at another character's point of view, but I think based on the end of this one that in the second book, the character's point of view that I didn't care for so much, I think it's going to get a little more interesting. So I am looking forward to checking that out. So this one, I will say, if you enjoyed games like Assassin's Creed, especially Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or if you enjoyed games like Skyrim, and then also if you enjoyed Northern Lights, particularly in the His Dark Materials series, I think you would really like this. I will say, especially if you're very familiar with Norse mythology and maybe tropes and commonly told stories in Norse mythology and like Norse epic tales, you might guess a lot of what is going on here. It doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel a lot of times, but it was very solid fantasy world building, like the kind where you're craving just sitting down and eating like a hunk of bread and cheese, that kind of fantasy, which is just really comforting in the winter, I think, at least. So I had fun. I'm intrigued to see where this series is going, and I will say this is definitely a fantasy book written by a man with 2 of our 3 main characters are women. I really thought John Gwynne did an excellent job of writing all 3 main characters and making engaging, non-sexualized female main characters, which was awesome to see, and unfortunately is still like really rare. I think he wrote his female characters very well. They're both so badass in a very non-sexualized way, and I'm really intrigued to see their story. Really liked Orca's story. I really liked Elvar's story. I think her story is going to become even better in the next installation as well, but I was really intrigued by her character. And then Varg, his was the one where his story I just was very bored by, but not by his character, just like by his story that was happening around him. But I think based on the end of this, I think I'm going to like his point of view a whole lot better, especially in the second book, because the things that he's going to be doing are a lot more exciting, if that makes sense. So I did really enjoy this, and I might pick up more by John Gwynne. I've heard amazing things about the Malice series. So I have yet another epic fantasy writer to put on my radar, but this was a whole lot of fun. And that is going to be it for this reading vlog. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe for more content from me. Stay safe, especially if you're being hit by the winter storms right now. Stay spooky, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye!